What's up everyone? Welcome or welcome back to the Marketing Nomad YouTube channel. I am the Marketing Nomad and today we are going to be talking about how do you differentiate between your intuition versus your fear. The first part of this podcast episode, we're going to be talking about fear. Then we're going to be getting into intuition. Then we're going to be talking about intuition versus fear. And then I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks that have worked specifically for me about how do you strengthen your intuition. All right, so let's talk about the first part of it, fear. All right. Now, fear is a built-in survival mechanism that all of us have, all right? It kind of steps in every time we perceive there to be danger or some kind of threat or even some kind of risk. It doesn't have to be real. It could even be imaginary as well. But this is a survival mechanism that our body has. It's a very, very psychological response to any perceived threat, danger, or some kind of risk as well. All right. And fear, let me be very clear, is absolutely essential. I mean, there's a reason why it's a survival mechanism, right? It is there to protect us. It is there to guard us. All right. Now, sometimes what happens is this fear tends to go into overdrive. All right. Instead of guiding us, what it does is it starts restricting us. And that's when it starts moving into the unhealthy territory. Right? Now, healthy fear versus unhealthy fear. And that's what I want to touch upon before we get into intuition versus fear, because I think that this is a very important difference that we need to kind of tackle. When it comes to healthy fear, all right, it usually keeps you very alert, very, very focused, and it helps you prepare for this perceived danger, this threat, or this risk. Could be real, could be imaginary. All right. Now, your healthy fear is actually very, very grounded in reality. It is there to protect you, and it is there as a very strong armor. All right. I have to say that when we are talking about healthy fear, sometimes it does stop you from taking action, but even that comes from a very grounded feeling. You feel safe and secure when you tap into your healthy fear. All right. You know that it is protecting you. All right. And the armor feels strong. That's one way that I would put it. For example, you are going on stage. This is the first time that you are speaking to an audience of maybe 5,000 people, and you have done a couple of maybe small speeches when you were in your class, back when you were in school. But now as an adult, this is the first time you're going on stage. You're a bit nervous. You know, you're worried, okay, well, maybe what if I stumble upon my words? What if I, forget my words, somewhere in the middle of my speech? And so that fear actually helps you prepare more. You maybe go over your speech 5 times instead of 3 times. Or maybe you come up with flashcards to help you prepare so that you don't forget as you are on stage. So there are these protective measures that this fear helps you take in order to protect yourself. That is healthy fear. All right. Now let's come to unhealthy fear. Now, sometimes because of maybe past experiences or, even trauma as well, or we could have watched someone else going through trauma, someone else going through a very negative experience, and we don't want to put ourselves through that. And that fear becomes unhealthy when it completely restricts us. That armor that I was talking about, it starts to feel heavy and it starts to feel like it is working against us. Healthy fear works with us. It feels like it's moving forward with us. Unhealthy fear feels like it's pushing us back. There's a big weight that's on us. All right. And I feel that it's important for me to talk about this because every time I am faced with fear, I just stop, okay? This is one way that has helped me. I just stop, pause, and I look at my body. I close my eyes and I feel my body. Am I being pushed backwards or am I moving forward with this fear? And when it is unhealthy fear, first off, it makes you shut down. It kind of puts you into avoidance mode or procrastination. And there is that frustration, that internal frustration that builds within you because it's pushing you back, right? And you are resisting it. So that resistance builds a lot of frustration within you. So every time you're faced with any kind of fear, I would highly, highly recommend doing this, all right? just pause, close your eyes, and watch your body's response to this particular thought. All right. Now, if it feels like you're flowing ahead cautiously, but you are still moving ahead, that's healthy fear. If it feels like you are being restricted, the armor feels heavy, something's pushing you back, and in a way that is building a lot of resistance within you, yeah, that's unhealthy fear. All right. Let me take the same stage example. Right. You have possibly a presentation to make, 5,000 people. We'll keep the same semantics. And instead of going up on stage, you don't. You call in sick, or you decide to procrastinate. You say, okay, you know what? I'm not coming for this meeting. I'll come for the next one, maybe three months down the line. So there is avoidance tendency. There is also procrastination. That would be unhealthy fear. It is completely shutting you down from even moving forward. All right. It's not even allowing you possible protective measures that you could be taking to protect yourself. All right, so that would be unhealthy fear. Now, the reason why I wanted to start this episode with this difference is because your healthy fear actually works with your intuition. They go hand in hand. There's a very beautiful synergy that happens with the two of them. However, when it comes to unhealthy fear, that's when the clash is. That's when, you struggle to distinguish between intuition and unhealthy fear. That's when there is the confusion within you, the chaos within you, the internal resistance building up to frustration. All right. So if I were to go back to the title of this episode, I would say how to tell the difference between intuition versus unhealthy fear, because intuition works with healthy fear. All right. Only intuition and unhealthy fear kind of clash. They go in opposite directions. It's kind of like magnets repelling. All right? Okay. So now that we've kind of distinguished this, and I've given you a tip that has worked for me, all right? I've not really seen this anywhere, this particular thing, but it's worked for me. For me, I think that my body, first off, it's a compass by itself, all right? And that is something that I so strongly believe about my own body. It tells me a lot more details that I would not have picked up otherwise. It gives me that additional information that I need. And I think that when we start trusting our body to give us the signals, that's one, smart way of adding more information before you take next steps, like that information that you need to process so that you can take your next steps. All right. So the body thing really works for me, especially when I'm kind of dealing with fear. I always pause and ask myself, am I being pushed back or am I moving forward? Because sometimes that confusion does come. Sometimes unhealthy fear can kind of look like healthy fear, kind of put a mask on and look like healthy fear, like it's, oh, I'm protecting you, but no, it's not. All right, it's actually restricting you. And the moment you feel that frustration along with that fear, that's often a sign. That's often a sign that it is unhealthy fear coming up to the surface. And that's the one that we want to tackle, because healthy fear is very much needed. We absolutely need that. And I'll give you an example from my own experience. When I was writing my first book, all right, it was a really, really, scary experience for me. I will not sugarcoat it, because for me, this is something that I've been wanting to do for 20 odd years of my life. And when I finally decided to do it, I was flooded with fear. Okay? And so much so that it took me some time to understand if it was healthy fear or not. So when it started out, it was definitely unhealthy, because all the fears was okay, first off, I'm only 29, or I think I was 28 when I started writing the book. And this was about 3 or 4 years ago. So I was about 28. I was in my 20s, okay? Late 20s, but 20s. I'm it's a business book, but it's also a self-help book. Do people in their 20s write a book like this? But then I've been through so many experiences, and I feel like I have knowledge that I can share. But at the same time, would people, laugh at me because I'm just in my late 20s writing a book? What would they think? Okay, what do you know about life? Because that's actually happened. I've actually had, I think, 1 or 2 people tell me when I did say that I was going to write a book. The first question was, what do you know about life? Or every time I have mentioned, I think there's been 2 or 3 times in my life where I've mentioned my own thought process about something, and then they're like, yeah, what do you know about life? Not exactly the healthiest approach or the healthiest response, but yeah, that was in my mind, and all of this fears, like, it was just kind of eating at me. It was really, really within me, and I couldn't really express it to anyone. And for a while, it did, make me pause in my writing. So that was the procrastination, and that was the period where I just completely shut down, and I was just completely, very indecisive. But there was a part of me that really wanted to write. There was a part of me that felt, I have this knowledge. I know I can write, at least based on my experiences. I'm not gonna, come up with something out of place, or, no, it's my own experience. It's my own thought process. I want to share that with whoever needs it, And so I realized that this was unhealthy fear because of the frustration that I was feeling. Every day that I wanted to write, but I was just like pushing it away because I was so afraid. And I was also afraid that I was putting my thoughts out there, right? By that time, I'd already been a content creator for about 2 years, but this one seemed a lot more, I don't know, it felt bigger to me in terms of putting my thoughts, because a lot of the thoughts that I've shared in 0 to 4 figures, it's quite intimate, right? It's dealing with very, very difficult topics as well. So I was a bit afraid, sharing my own experiences, so on and so forth, and, how would it be perceived, all of those. So I could feel that internal frustration building within me. I was just, every single day that I didn't write, I was just like, what, why? I'm not feeling okay. Something's feeling off. And that's when I did this, where I just, paused, and I started thinking about why this fear exists. All right, if I am worried about, sharing my experiences out there, maybe the amount of information. So how can I put it in a way that makes me feel secure? So I started working around that fear. I started converting that unhealthy fear into healthy fear. Then when it came to the content that I was writing, I would say close to 2/3 of what I had written, I completely wiped it out, because in my process of editing and with this fear at the back of my mind, which I'd converted it into healthy fear, it helped me edit my book in such a way that I was able to eliminate every piece of information that I thought wasn't relevant. And I was very, I wouldn't say brutal or critical, but I will say that I was very discerning. It helped me discern a lot better, or a lot more aligned. And in terms of my thought process, my age and stuff like that, I thought, what? There are other people like me who went through what I went through, feeling lost, not having purpose in life, and maybe even going on a wrong career path and then realizing that's not for you. I can share that. There might not be people maybe much, much older who feel it's not going to relate to them, but that's not for them. They've already got their career figured out. They've already got everything figured out. I am talking to people who were just like me, or who are just like me. And so that by itself was me converting my unhealthy fear to healthy fear. And that was, I feel, one of the biggest things that I did with respect to the book. And it helped me write the book. Of course, there was a lot of checking. There was a lot of going back and forth. That fear made me check, like, I think 3 times the normal amount that I would have without that fear. But it was helping me. It was helping me put out a good book out there. So that was how I converted that unhealthy fear to healthy fear. So there have been moments in my life where I have experienced unhealthy fear, but the thing is, you have to recognize it. That's how you can shift it into healthy fear. So how do you recognize it? This way works for me. And I just close my eyes, pause, and I just allow my body to speak to me. If I'm feeling like something's pushing me back, and I want to move forward, but it's pushing me back, and I feel that internal resistance, I feel that frustration, yep, that's unhealthy fear. However, if it's moving forward with me and I feel safe and secure, but at the same time, I know that it's there to protect me, like the armor feels strong and not heavy, yeah, that's when I know, okay, well, this is healthy fear. Let's see how I can put in protective measures so that I can work with it and move forward with it. All right. So that's why I thought it was important for me to talk about this first. I think that it's very important to distinguish between healthy fear and unhealthy fear, because healthy fear is very, very important. You need that. All right. That's not something that you should work against. You should work with that. All right. Okay. So we're done talking about fear. I'm just looking at my notes at this point, but next part is intuition. All right. So when it comes to intuition, every single one of us, we have intuition. All right. I think that I went through a very small phase in my life where I think the people around me at that point, they thought that it was more spiritual, a little bit woo-woo, and that led me to kind of rethink my thought process about intuition. I've always been very intuitive as a person, like even as a child. I don't know where it came from, probably my parents, because they too rely on their intuition quite a bit. I do sense that with them as well, and I've seen them rely on their intuition quite a bit. So I think maybe that's where it came from. So even as a kid, I used to rely very, very heavily on my intuition, my gut feeling, so to say. And when I think as I grew older, just the company that I kept for a very short period in my life, I was like, okay, well, am I being silly? Is this weird? Is this just a me thing? But as I grew older, I started, digging deeper into spirituality and, of course, psychology. Took a few courses. I started to, understand more about intuition. So let's talk a little bit about it. So your intuition, I'm reading my notes because, well, there's, I think, a lot of technical terms that come through. So this one is a deeply instinctive knowing. I think all of us know that. But it's there to protect us. All right. Your intuition is basically your subconscious working to protect you. It's kind of like an inner knowing. Now, if you want to take the psychological route, it is your brain's subconscious ability where you are looking at patterns, you're recognizing patterns, and you are predicting that pattern. It happens on a very, very subconscious level. All right. It's basically a lot to do with your implicit memory, all the data, all the information that your brain is collecting, even without your knowledge, and then basing what it can, like an extrapolation of what could happen or what is happening. And that's just, I guess I would say, an inner knowing. However, it's not spiritual or it's not woo-woo. It's just pattern recognition, all right? And sometimes the experiences that you go through, all right, it could be more intense, right? Or trauma or very extreme I guess I would say experiences. I don't have any other word for that. Yeah, that also adds in to the data that your subconscious is collecting, and that's how it can kind of extrapolate what could happen or what is happening. Now, if you want to go the spiritual route, all right, because I completely value both routes. So if you want to go the spiritual route, it is a deeper connection to your inner self. All right. Some say that it can also be your own connection to your higher self, but I would also say it is inner wisdom. All right. And that feels most aligned to me as well. Some also kind of feel that your intuition is based on collective consciousness as well. So there are different ways to perceive intuition, even in a more spiritual sense. But for me, the one that resonates the most is my inner wisdom. All right. And I definitely do associate with the psychological aspect of it, that my brain, subconsciously, it is working 24/7 and even beyond that if possible to protect me. And that is where the inner knowing comes from. It has all of this data and this information that I may not have consciously picked up, and it kind of churns out all that data and then gives me the knowledge that I need, that wisdom that I need, or that inner knowing that I need at that point in time. All right. So that is how you would kind of look at intuition. And one thing that I've written over here is it arises without any conscious reasoning or even a logical thought. So sometimes you could feel something and your logical mind might not have processed it yet. And so you're like, okay, why am I feeling this way when there is no physical evidence that I can see? But the truth is, your mind would have already processed a lot of these, I guess I would say, patterns that led to that understanding of what could be happening or what could happen. All right. So that is something that I have understood about intuition. Like I said, I think that there was a small phase in my life where I thought that it might be a little bit spiritual, and I was kind of wondering because, like I said, I've been deeply intuitive from a very young age, and there have been moments in my life where just randomly one thought would come, like an inner knowing, and I don't know why it would come up, and it was very confusing to me. But as I grew older, I think I have started to understand where that comes from. I've started to not question it at all. Actually, today my relationship with my intuition is very, very different from how it was before. Before it was more like, oh, that's an inner knowing, and then when it's actually started showing me signs of it in like 3D in reality, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I knew this was gonna happen. It was more like shocks after shocks. But today it's like, yeah, okay, that's a confirmation. Today's more of a confirmation, but back then it was more like, oh wow, I was right, And today I think that there is unconditional trust that I have with my intuition. And I think that first off, the universe also has taught me multiple times to trust it as well. I've been through some experiences that have kind of some tiny painful lessons, I guess, as well, to let me know that I have to trust my intuition implicitly. So that is just my journey, all right? But there are some tips and tricks. Messed up that. I feel like I did tips and tricks and I just merged into two different words. Crazy. Anyway, so I do have some tips and tricks that can help you strengthen your intuition as well. Like I said, it takes practice. It is something that builds over time, but you have to consciously work on it, right? Now, that is the intuition part of it, all right? So now that we know that it is a very deep and instinctive knowing, we know the psychological aspect of it, we also know the spiritual understanding of it. Feel free to pick which spiritual understanding of it resonates with you, all right? Now let's get into intuition versus unhealthy fear, all right? Because like I told you, intuition works with healthy fear. However, intuition works against unhealthy fear, and that's where the clash comes, all right? So for that, let's talk a little bit about the qualities of intuition, and based on that, it will help you differentiate between your intuition and your unhealthy fear. Now, another thing about intuition is, and I feel like tapping into this again, is that it is instinctive, right? And when do you rely on your instincts? Usually when there's a decision that needs to be made really fast, or there's perceived danger or threat or risk, and you need to act fast, right? Because of that, your instincts have to be clear, they have to be very simple, and they have to be very direct so that you can take action based on that. And if it's beating around the bush, that's going to be wasting precious time, right? So if you understand where instincts come from, then you would be able to relate where your intuition or the energy of your intuition. So even if the situation is probably nothing happening, your intuition comes through very clear, very direct, and it's just very simple, all right? So that is one thing that I have also understood about your intuition, because it's deeply instinctive. So it kind of embodies that energy. It doesn't matter if nothing's happening around you or if things are just moving pretty slowly around you, but because it comes from a place of instinct, it is very clear, very direct, and it's also very calm, because that's the energy that you have to be even in, perceived danger or threat. You can't be in panic, or, you need to calm down in order to assess the situation, right? So that's why it comes through very calm, very, very direct. And I would say it's very strong as well. It comes through strong, right? Now, another thing about intuition is you just know. You just know, because there's no logical explanation for it. Even if you have not seen anything about it, you don't have the perceived data for your conscious mind, you just know, right? There's no proof for it, you just know, right? That's often what happens when your intuition comes through. Like, for example, just sensing something is off, There's no proof of it sometimes, but you just know something's off. Like when someone's lying to you, there are certain things that you just know they're lying, right? It could be that your mind, your subconscious has picked up on maybe their eye movements, or maybe them looking down too much or not meeting your eye. Like your subconscious mind might have picked up all of those signals. That's pattern recognition coming through. but consciously you may not have noticed, or you may not have picked up on it, right? But you just know. You just know something's off. You just know someone's lying to you, or you just know this is going to happen, or so and so will happen, or so and so is happening right now as we are speaking. So that's all of the data that your subconscious mind is processing without your knowledge, and it's just a knowing. That's one way that it comes through. Now, let's talk a little bit about unhealthy fear. Fear, of course, is loud. It is so, so loud, all right? It screams at you, especially unhealthy fear. It screams at you because it's, like I said, that resistance, it's pushing you back. So it wants to be heard, all right? So because of that, it's screaming and it's shouting at you. Another thing about it, as we talked about, is that there's a physical body reaction to it. However, when it is healthy fear, there's actually a very different layer of calm that comes through it, because your mind starts working on how to protect you. All right, so there's a different layer of calmness that comes through with healthy fear. However, if it is unhealthy, it's screaming, your body is physically reacting to it. You can feel that internal panic. You can feel, I guess I would say, you can feel your body's reaction, your body's resistance to the unhealthy fear. It doesn't want to engage with that, but it's being forced to. So that causes a lot of friction internally. That causes a lot of frustration also internally. So that is how intuition behaves, I guess I would say, versus your unhealthy fear. Now let's talk about how to recognize whether it's your intuition talking to you or it's your unhealthy fear talking to you. Now, I think the theme of this episode is going to be, you have to listen to your body, because it is giving you the signs, it is giving you signals, and it is telling you, all right? So what I do when I have to distinguish between my intuition and unhealthy fear is I pause. Whatever it is that I'm doing, I pause, I close my eyes, I take a few deep breaths, all right? And I listen to the voice. Now, if the voice is calm, collected, cool, direct, clear, that is my intuition speaking to me. If the voice is screaming at me, it's causing some kind of panic, it's, making me go into overdrive in terms of my thought processes, like my thought processes are just running all over the place, yeah, that's unhealthy fear. All right, that is the fundamental difference, and this way has worked like magic for me every single time. I just have to close my eyes. I just have to listen to the voice, because the energy of the voice itself tells me if it is my intuition or if it is an unhealthy fear. Unhealthy fear, it will always be loud. It will try to drown out the other noises in your mind. It will also try to drown out your intuition as well. And it will always cause that urgency, that panic within you. That's often your unhealthy fear coming through. All right. So the intuition, very direct, very calm, very strong, but soft. The voice is soft, but strong, but powerful. All right. And it's very clear. How do I say this? It's simple. When it's simple, it's often the intuition, because it's just a message that needs to be delivered to you. All right? Whereas your unhealthy fear, it often tries to step in to control you, to control your actions, to put you in shutdown, to put you in avoidance. That's also a fundamental difference between the two. All right? So just listening to the voice will help you. Now, of course, when it comes to intuition, it's not that your intuition is abandoning your logic. No, it actually works alongside logic, but it's logic that's being processed by your subconscious mind. So you might not have access in your conscious mind to that logic, but often your logic and your intuition are working together to help you, to just give you a deeper understanding. That's the inner wisdom coming through. That's the inner knowing coming through. All right. Now, like I talked about as we started this episode, there are ways to strengthen your intuition, all right? And for me, what's worked for me is what I will be sharing with you. These are some tips and tricks that have worked for me. So the first thing is you have to spend a lot of time with yourself, all right? You have to spend a lot of time in solitude, in quiet with yourself. You need to first recognize the difference in the energy of the voices that are coming to you. All right. And for me, I even to this day, I spend a lot of time with myself, just, putting away all of my distractions, all of my electronics to one part, Just before I go to sleep, there's 30 minutes of time where I'm just with myself. I'm just understanding what is going on within me, whether it's in my thoughts, whether it's in my body. This helps tremendously. All right. So spend time with yourself. Try to understand. That's also another way that you connect deeper with your intuition, because like I said, it's actually a very, very soft voice that comes through. And for that, you need to be centered. You need to be quiet to listen to it, to hear it. And oftentimes, you need to also kind of understand that when it's screaming at you, it's your unhealthy fear. And even to recognize those differences in the tone of the voices, yeah, you need some time to spend with yourself just in solitude, recognizing these different voices, all right? Or even the tones of the voice, the energy of the voices. So spending time with yourself just in solitude, away from any distractions of any kind, just observing the thoughts that are running in your mind, observing how those thoughts are going, just as a third person. You don't have to engage with those thoughts. You just, let them flow. Say, oh, okay, that's coming in a more panicked voice, or that voice is screaming at me a little bit, or this voice is calm, quiet, collected. That's my intuition speaking to me. All right. So that is one thing. All right. Listen to yourself. That is very, very important. That's how you actually strengthen your intuition. First off, there's a lot of noise, right? Whether it is within our mind or even externally. Once you shut down all of those noises, that's how you listen to your intuition. Like I said, very quiet voice, very soft, but it is there. It's there, it's strong, it's powerful, but oftentimes there's just so much of external stimuli, external noise that it overshadows, it overpowers it, right? So once you clear that out, you'll be able to tap deeper into your intuition. The second thing is when you listen to these intuitive hits that you are getting, you'll recognize that it is more consistent. All right. It doesn't fluctuate with your moods. It's very, very consistent. Rain or shine, it's an intuitive hit that stays constant. However, when it comes to your unhealthy fear, it actually fluctuates with your mood. That's also one more way that you can distinguish between the two of them. Your fear, it feels very, very limiting, whereas your intuition actually frees you. Even if that intuitive hit might be slightly painful, it frees. There's a freeing energy to it that comes through. All right. Now, when it comes to strengthening your intuition, the first one, like I said, it's about listening to yourself. The second is about relying on it step by step. You don't have to rely on it on the big things, but every time you get an intuitive hit, rely on it rather than questioning it, rather than looking for proof of it in your physical realm, because sometimes we tend to do that. But like I said, it's more of your subconscious processing it. So your conscious mind might not even recognize the data. So even if you're looking for proof for it in 3D, what your conscious mind can process, you probably might not find any proof of it. So it takes slow and steady steps, but even the tiniest of intuitive hits, start relying on it, start recognizing it, start building your trust that way. The more you rely on it without questioning it, without asking for proof, that's another way where it slowly builds your connection to it. Because at some point in the future, you are going to get a confirmation for that intuition. But until then, if you keep doubting it, if you keep working against it, that's just causing a lot of internal frustration, because you're allowing your unhealthy fear to step in. Even not trusting your intuition is unhealthy fear as well, right? It can become that. So trust it. When you get that intuitive hit, trust it without questioning or without asking for proof. Just trust that at a later point, you will get the proof for it. You don't need that proof right now. All right, so trust it. And when the voice is calm, neutral, clear, all right, just know that the more you trust it, the more it builds in its strength over time. Okay, so that is very, very important. It does take experience. It does take a lot of conscious effort. Today, I feel, for me, I kind of went through tiny lessons along the way, a little bit painful, I gotta tell you, tiny lessons, painful lessons along the way, where I was taught to trust my intuition extremely implicitly. So today there's like this unconditional trust and confidence that I have in my intuition. And it's taken me some time. It's taken me quite a few missteps to get here. It's taken me quite a few moments where I had to just pause everything and listen to myself for a few days to really listen and hear my intuition rather than the external noises that were coming through. So it's taken me time. It does take time. It's not something that happens overnight, but the more you practice, the more you actually build your confidence with your intuition. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes conscious effort, but it strengthens over time. It does. It's not about the intuition strengthening, I guess I would say. I would want to correct that. I would say that things become quieter in your mind so that you can hear it. The more you practice, the more it just comes through in a way that you hear it. Yeah, I think that's the way that I would put it, because the voice is still quiet. It's still quiet even after so many years, and there's unconditional trust. It's still very quiet. It just pops and goes for me. And but it's about how quiet my mind has been, the conscious effort that I have put in to quieten the external noise as well as the internal noise. Yeah, so it's more about that. All right. So for me, how do you limit the external noise? Of course, social media, other people. I often go, you can ask my friends as well. I often go on like social media hiatus where I'm just out of social media. I do not want that external noise. And sometimes it's gone for months as well, because I just really want to listen to what's happening inside me rather than what's happening externally. External noise limiting could also be other people. People's opinions, people's thought processes, so on and so forth. So maybe you just want to come back to yourself. You want to realign to your thoughts. You want to get back to listening to yourself rather than listening to other people around you. So that also is another way to limit your external voice. Then meditation really helps to quieten the internal loud noises, the unhealthy fears, the panic, anxiety as well. Of course, if you need help, please take professional help. That's very, very important. But for me, meditation really, really helps. I used to be, in the understanding that meditation, my mind was too fast for it, or my mind was too loud for it. But what I understood about meditation was that it is just allowing your thoughts to flow so that they can run, and get tired and then stop running. And then, just drop out of exhaustion, especially the thoughts that are working against you. So that is how I perceive meditation. It's not me trying to control the flow of thoughts or stopping myself from thinking. It's just allowing my thoughts to flow. And the 30-minute thing that I was talking to you about, where you just allow your thoughts to flow, that's a great way. For me, I don't close my eyes. I keep my eyes open for this. Of course, I do closed eyes meditation as well. And I would not call this meditation per se, but I just, open my eyes. I'm fully conscious, but I'm letting those thoughts flow. That also has been helpful. Meditation also has been helpful. There are a lot of meditation music on YouTube. I particularly would recommend Jason Stevenson, that one on YouTube. There are no ads for his music, and it's really, really good. It's very soothing, and oftentimes I've found myself, completely absorbing the frequency of that meditation music. So that's one channel that I highly recommend. All right. And with respect to the thoughts, journaling also really helps as well. You're putting all of those thoughts down on paper so that there's space for more thoughts to form. There's space for you to listen, because I sometimes feel like there's just so many thoughts running. I feel like this is a problem for all of us, given like how much of exposure we have to external noise at this point. Yeah, oftentimes that can happen where there's just not enough space for you to even listen to what's going on. So even just putting down your thoughts on paper, that can help free up some space so that you can listen to what is going on as well. Overall, I think that it comes to listening and understanding the energy between, or the difference in the energy between your intuition and unhealthy fear. Your intuition is very soft, but it's strong. And it's direct, it's calm, and it's just there. However, your unhealthy fear often comes out of spiraling, comes out of spinning. It's very loud. It's more like someone screaming at you. And it's often causing a lot of physical body reactions to it. Like there's that sense of urgency that comes through. Oftentimes that's your unhealthy fear speaking in. So how do you recognize? You listen, and then you recognize. And over time, it becomes easier to distinguish between the two of them. But of course, that also, even to this day, I think that there are more things that you can have unhealthy fears about. So that's why this is a continuous process. I don't think I will ever be able to say, oh, I can 100% figure out my intuition, and I don't even need the process of sitting with my body and listening to it. No, I don't think I will ever say that, because I think that there are new things that will always come up where you have unhealthy fears about that, like that connection with that. So it's a constant effort that needs to keep going, but it does strengthen over time. Like, I feel the time that I take to recognize my intuition, that's definitely reduced over the years of practicing. And the time that I take to calm myself down and deal with my unhealthy fear, that has also reduced significantly because of the difference between the two, because I can logically process these two. Like, oh, okay, this is screaming at me, that's unhealthy. This is quiet and this is soft, so that's healthy, and that's my intuition, and I have to trust that. So even just walking my way through this, speaking out loud really helps as well. I tend to do that sometimes. Like, you'll see me pacing around my room, and I'm speaking out loud, and I'm like, okay, but how is this voice sounding to me? Or how is this thought feeling to me? Like, what do I feel in my body? So you can see me like pacing around my room, talking out loud to myself. That helps as well. Whatever works for you, but at the same time, it's important to listen. So however you choose to listen, that would be an individualistic method, but give yourself that space and time to listen. All right? Give yourself that space and time. That's very, very important. And how much ever time you need, that's also very individualistic. For some people, it can be split seconds. For others, it might take 30, 40 minutes, sometimes multiple days. That has happened with me as well, right? Don't put yourself in a box to say, oh, I have to figure this out by a certain amount of time. No. The more you do that, the more you're actually succumbing to unhealthy fear. Remember, that's the energy of the unhealthy fear. You're just slipping into that, but you can also reorient yourself to align with the energy of your intuition. If you feel calm, collected within you, like very centered, that's your intuition speaking to you. If you feel jumpy, anxiety, like you have to make a decision really fast, like that push, that urgency, or that push back, or you feel like shutting down or avoidance, or you feel that frustration building with you, definitely unhealthy. All right? But how do you tell the difference? You listen. You listen, you tap into the energy, and then you recognize which is the energy that you want to align with. The one that's calm, that's the one you want to align with, all right? That's the one that's going to help you, basically. It's not about what you want to. Sometimes I feel like we want to align with unhealthy fear because it feels safe for that moment in time, or it's just less pain to deal with sometimes. That can also happen. But the more we step into that energy, the more we're harming ourselves, whether it is the actions that we take out of that unhealthy fear that often works against us, or I always say, actions that you take because of unhealthy fear, it's misalignment, because that energy is working against you. So the more actions you take in that, the more the energy of your action is working against you. All right? And the misalignment grows over time. However, your intuition is completely aligned to your inner knowing, your inner wisdom as well. And that's the energy that the more you align with that, the more you flow into what is meant for you. So if you want to go the spiritual route as well, your intuition guides you, because that's your inner knowing. And some people do say that it connects to your higher self as well. And your higher self, as we talked about in a previous episode, it knows your soul's purpose. It knows your soul's journey. And that's the frequency that if you align with, you will automatically be led into what feels like a flow to you. It might be painful lessons along the way, absolutely, but even that is in alignment with the person that you're meant to be and the person that you are meant to get to, all right? So that is how I see intuition. I'm a deeply intuitive person, I will say, just between you and me. Like, I've not written this in my notes, so it's just a free conversation. I'm a deeply intuitive person. I think that I've always been, and it's only been in the last few years that I've just decided to rely on my intuition. I think that there's a layer of just absolute trust that I have. And I gotta tell you, I've been doing this for about a few years now. I feel that alignment, I feel that alignment when I'm making decisions with my intuition rather than unhealthy fear. And I think the more you feel that after making your decisions, the more you start trusting it. So it's not the proof, it's the feeling that you get when you listen to your intuition. I feel like that's what I keep looking for every decision that I make, like that peace, that centered energy, that calmness, that balanced energy that I feel. Yeah, that's what I gravitate towards. And I know that if I trust my intuition and follow my intuition, I get to that feeling. So I keep that as my compass, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I will say that intuition is not woo-woo. It's not only spiritual. There is also a psychological aspect to it. So whichever one you want to follow, that's completely onto you. I've given you two different perspectives. For me, I tend to rely on both. To be very honest with you, both reasonings work very well with me. And relying on my intuition, let me tell you, like relying unconditionally on my intuition, it's definitely been life-changing, and I wish that for you as well. All right. So if you have any experiences about your intuition you want to share with me, definitely do that in the comments below. And I really hope that this podcast episode has helped you understand the difference between healthy fear and unhealthy fear. Aligning with healthy fear, thumbs up. Aligning with unhealthy fear, it's misalignment. It will keep getting bigger and bigger, and it's just unnecessary for you to deal with that misalignment. Then we talked about intuition. Then we talked a little bit about intuition versus unhealthy fear, the differences between the two of them, how to identify intuition, how to identify your unhealthy fear. And then I've given you some tips to strengthen your intuition. Basically, it's all about listening to yourself. It's giving yourself that space and that time just for yourself without any external noise and external distraction. It's very difficult in today's day and time, day and age, I guess I would say. But when you give yourself that time, just, consistently, trust me, that's absolutely a game changer when it comes to tapping into your intuition. All right, this is where I will leave you for today. I really hope that this podcast episode gave you a good starting point to figure out what works for you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'll catch you in my next one. All right, take care. Bye-bye.